So within the user face, if we take a look at some of the options that exist beneath the main menu, we've got a number of different icons here. And again, just like a lot of the individual areas of the user interface, it can be a little bit confusing when you first look at it, because it's about learning to understand what all these individual icons mean. But in a similar way as to the main menu, you'll find that they're all grouped under individual sections of relevance. To begin with, what I'm going to show you is a way in which we can kind of collapse down some of these options, because there tends to be quite a few. You'll notice in between we have these kind of separating sections. If you left click on those, we can slowly collapse everything down, and this will be a good way, in fact, just to demonstrate and go through some of the options that we have inside. Okay, so let's keep it like that at its very basic, and we'll start with this drop down menu that we have here. Now, if you've already watched the video on the main menus up at the top, you'll understand that what we have is something known as menu sets. This drop down option allows us to access those menu sets. We already know that holding down H, left click dragging, is the shortcut via the marking menu to the menu sets. But this is just a different way we can access all of those via here. Plus we can also go in and begin to customize, so we can change what menus are in the menu set. Hide that. And also, just before I start opening up some of these sections, on the right hand side here I've got 3 icons, all representing specific windows that are going to be very important as we work. First of all, we have the larger button on the left hand side. If I click on that, that's going to toggle, as you may have just seen there, my attribute editor. So I can left click to show, left click to hide, or of course if I wanted to, I can use Control A to toggle it. Let's hide that there. I've also got the tool settings. Okay, so I can again toggle the visibility on and off of that. And then I have the channel box. Alright, selecting that will make it visible. Toggling it on and off, of course, will hide and show. When I'm dealing with the attribute editor and channel box, if I select the channel box and also select the attribute editor, in 2011 we have this tab option here, which means that I can just jump between the two depending on which one I want to be in, or I can still use the shortcut of Control A that allows me to jump between the channel box layer editor to the attribute editor. Okay, let me just hide all of those and we'll go back to taking a look at some of the sections. Now, if I open up the first area, what we have here is something known as the input line operations. Very briefly explained, this allows us to quickly select, rename or transform any objects within our scene. The next option along, this is all to do with rendering. So the shortcut that we have here, if I click on that, will bring up my render view window. So this is where I'm going to be able to visualize the renders of my scene. I've got a render current frame button. I've got an IPR render current frame. And then this icon here takes me through to my render settings, which will allow me to set up specific attributes and characteristics for my final renders. Next section down, if I open that, a little bit smaller, what I've got is an icon here that allows me to control the history of an object. So I'm able to take this and toggle it on and off. There you can see construction history on and off. And then the input and output option, if I have an object selected, I'm able to display the inputs and outputs of that object or node. Moving along still, we've got what are kind of considered transformation aids, and this is all to do with when we're trying to transform any kind of object within our scene. These give us the ability to toggle on and toggle off certain snapping methods, and all of these are covered within their own specific how-to, but we can snap anything to a grid, snap to a curve, snap to a point, snap to a view plane, and this one's slightly different. It allows us to do what's known as make an object live. Next section down, this is all to do with selecting, and these are known as selection masks. So I can lock my selection. I've also got the ability to turn on a highlight selection mode, and each of these individual buttons gives me the method to very quickly turn on and off the ability to select certain types of objects within my scene. A lot of the time you'll find that when you start working on your scene, it'll become more and more complex, and if you just left click drag, you may find that you select the wrong thing. So as an example, what I can do is just toggle that off, toggle all of these off, and then the only thing that I could select in my scene is joints, okay? If I turn that off, okay, the only thing that I'm going to be able to select is surfaces, okay? Select surface objects, as you can see there. So I can turn all of these back on, and next to it, if you have a look, I've got some fast access to turning all objects on and off, or actually saving a custom selection mask that I may have organized myself. Next to that, again, all to do with selection. By default, when we select, we're selecting objects. But what we can do, if I select this one, is select the components of that object. So vertices, faces, edges, selection handles, anything that is part of the object. We also have select by hierarchy and individual hierarchy options, but you'll find a lot of the time you'll just be dealing with the objects. Further on down, okay, we've got presets for selection masks, all objects animation, okay, so I can select polygons and it will give me a special set of selection options. Let's just turn that back to all objects. And the final area that we need to cover is all really just shortcuts to dealing with our scene. So we've got a new scene, we've got open scene, and we've also got save the current scene. The three options that you'll always find in your file menu.